So the Apex Court, it stayed criminal defamation proceedings against Rahul Gandhi for claiming China had captured 2,000 kilometers of Indian territory, killing 20 Indian soldiers and thrashing, PETA, as he put it, our soldiers in Arunachal Pradesh. The Apex Court asked, how did he know China had grabbed 2,000 kilometers of Indian land? Was he there? A true Indian won't say all of this or words to that effect. So let's try and make sense of this big political showdown. Joining me on India First is Dr. Shama Mohammed, spokesperson, national spokesperson of the Congress, Dr. Syed Zafar Islam, national spokesperson and former member of parliament of the BJP. Karna Nandi is a senior advocate of the Supreme Court. Jay Anand Dehadrai is an advocate in the Supreme Court of India. Major General Sanjay Meston joins us as a defense expert and analyst, someone who served on ground in Ladakh. Sandeep Punithan is a senior journalist who was in Ladakh during the 2020 standoff with me. Dr. Shama Mohammed, the Supreme Court asked, how did Rahul Gandhi know that 2,000 kilometers of our land has been taken by China? Was he there? Strong words by the Supreme Court, including an observation that a true Indian would not say any of this or words to that effect. In fact, Union Minister Hardeep Puri, he says Rahul Gandhi should apologize to the nation and our armed forces and introspect over his continuation in public life, ma'am.
Okay, so now since I've been watching for 10 minutes all your things, you have to give us time. First and foremost, I am very upset and shocked that on a serious issue, India today is taking the mic to a lady called Kangana Ranaut, who called Rohit Sharma Dobi ka kutta and Atangwadi.
Can we stay on the substantive issue? She's a member of parliament.
I don't
but
care.
Be that as it may, you may not care, but let's stay on the substantive issue. Let's stay on the substantive issue. You don't decide who we take our mic to. Let's be very clear about that, Dr. Mohammed.
She's an anti-national. When you call your cricketer Atangwadi, you're an anti-national. Now, let me get to the point.
Yes.
The court, the judge, what is his job? To uphold the constitution and to give the judgment. It is not his duty to speak about anybody in a certain manner, to pass comments. That is not what the judge has to do. He's right. He stayed the judgment, but to speak in a certain derogatory manner about anybody is not. It is the leader of opposition's right to question. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of points on what Rahul Gandhi. September 1st, 2020. All right, it's a Hindu newspaper, is a good newspaper. It is read by many. It is not some YouTube channel or anything. Vijeta Singh's article, I'm going to read it out. About 1,000 square kilometers of area in Ladakh along the line of actual control is now under Chinese control. Intelligence inputs provided to the center suggest. All right.
And he added another 1,000 kilometers to that. Is that what you're saying? But let me bring in Syed Zafar Islam. Ma'am, it has to be conversational and it has to be quick. It has to be quick, ma'am.
I'm leaving the debate. You have to
be that as it may. Ma'am, be my guest. Be my guest. My question to you is...
Gaurav,
okay.
If a right winger, are you going to keep interrupting Zafar Islam just like you interrupt me?
Oh, absolutely. If he takes more than his time, go ahead. Ma'am, I have 6 guests. Brevity has to be your forte. Go on, quickly complete your point, ma'am.
Let me finish. I have a couple of points. Otherwise, don't invite 6 guests. You need to give me time to defend my leader. Then, Tapir Gao, the MP from Arunachal, said 50 to 60 kilometers inside Arunachal. Jamyang, their MP, former MP of Ladakh, says it is not just Pangong Tso. It is much more than that. So these are not anybody from the Congress party. BJP president of Leh district, his name is Dorje, former president. He said huge area in Leh taken. So let's understand Arunachal, Leh, Ladakh. Satellite images show the Chinese haven't come in. We had corps commander meetings, around 14 to more. And what did Mr. Narendra Modi say? He said, na koi gussa hai, na koi gussenga. Nobody has entered. So why did 20 of our soldiers die? Why were they martyred? And why did we have corps commander meetings? Let me ask you one thing. Can you show us the satellite images of India from 2014 to 2025? And I want to ask Zafar, are we back to the 2020 April status quo ante or not? These questions have to be answered.
Zafar Islam, Dr. Syed Zafar Islam, Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan observed that in parliamentary history of our country, this is perhaps the first time that the court has made such a strong observation about the leader of opposition. But as Abhishek Manu Singhvi observed in court, it's the job of the leader of opposition to ask questions. The government should respond. The questions that Dr. Shama Mohammed has raised are questions that are in public domain. How is Rahul Gandhi wrong if he raises these questions, sir?
I think the Honorable Supreme Court has made few observations. One of the observations, of course, he said that he should have raised this issue on the floor of the parliament instead of misleading the people. Every time, the only agenda Rahul Gandhi has to mislead the people, make this kind of a statement. Like, for instance, he made a certain kind of a statement that about Rafale. He made a statement that about demonetization, that if he'll speak,
sir, let's stay on the issue of Ladakh for the moment, because the Supreme Court's observations were strictly about the situation on LAC, sir.
I'm coming to that. I said he's an irresponsible leader. He doesn't know what exactly he's speaking. He doesn't know when he opens his mouth that he's speaking for the country or against the country, and whether he's really deemed fit to be a leader of opposition. That is something which the observation of the Supreme Court actually exposes him that he is not.
Sir, but the Supreme Court did not say that he's not fit to be leader of opposition.
But he said anybody who is making this kind of a statement, should think, as an Indian, should make this kind of a statement. And he happens to be a leader of opposition. He has more responsibility on his shoulder than a normal Indian who is on the street, because he's the leader of opposition.
Sir,
he should be
the question,
sensitive.
and I will come back to you to respond to this. The point that Dr. Shama Mohammed raises is, if there is an incursion which is being pointed out, if there is, and if it's being written about extensively...
I'll respond to that. In fact, defense minister...
That is for the government to come clean on it, instead of saying, the Congress party has na koi ghusa hai, na koi ghusa hai.
Are you not aware?
Are we back to the 2020 situation?
Are you not aware that the Honorable Defense Minister on the floor of the Parliament has made this statement? He has made this statement and confirmed that there is absolutely no truth in what Mr. Rahul Gandhi is making statement outside the Parliament. So there is a record in the floor of in the Parliament. Such a statement has been made by the Defense Minister on the floor of the Parliament. Okay. I happened to be at Parliament at that point in time, and the statement was made. So there is no ambiguity. There is no speculation here.
Dr. Mohammed, permit me to bring in our other guests. I'll come back to you.
Yeah, one point.
A true Indian won't say all of this. Does this observation actually put Rahul Gandhi in a spot, in a very, very difficult position? Because if I may, BJP's IT cell head, Amit Malviya, says Rahul Gandhi now is certified anti-national.
Or Savant, I'm afraid the line isn't very clear. But I think from what I got of the previous arguments, they were political arguments, right? This is a court case. And this is not just a court case, it is a criminal court case. So today, while I'm seeing various headlines from the media saying Rahul Gandhi rapped on the knuckles, the Supreme Court comes down heavily on Rahul Gandhi. Today, there was one thing that needed to happen legally. One. Was notice going to be issued and a stay pursuant to that. That happened. Why did the Supreme Court issue notice and a stay? The reason is that you cannot go around, if you disagree with someone or if you think it's a bit rude, you can't go around suing people for criminal defamation. Because tomorrow you say something that X doesn't agree with. We don't want them to say, my feelings are hurt because you said something about whether it's the army or whether it's the Congress party. Say you say something about the Congress party, right? And a Congress worker or somebody who's unrelated to the Congress and feels bad for the Congress party goes off and files a criminal defamation case against you. We do not want that. Why? Because political speech is incredibly important, not just democratically, but also constitutionally. We are a democratic constitutional republic. What does that mean? It means that people say different things. The leader of the opposition may ask questions about the army. It could be because he is concerned about army people being killed in a manner that they should not be. I mean, obviously, army people should never be killed, but he may be concerned about the ramifications on army personnel with regard to the issues he's talking about. And so let us now come to the law. In what way does the IPC, and this case would be under the Indian Penal Code because it was prior to the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita coming in, but it would be tried under the Bharatiya Nyaya Suraksha Sanhita. That's a technical legal argument that I won't get into, but take it as a given. Now, in such a situation, what is the procedural law and the substantive law that protects Mr. Gandhi? Number one, the fifth exception to defamation says that imputation of truth which public good requires to be made or published, right? So when it is not defamation to impute anything which is concerning any person or any association, it would be for the public good that the imputation should be made or public.
Fair enough. Let me bring in Jayanant Dehadrai.
Points with regard to the reason why today's stay was granted. Number two, this person comes, he's the former head of the Border Roads Organization, and he says, I'm deeply offended on behalf of the army. He cannot do that. There was a case in which a worker came and said that I am offended on behalf of Mahatma Gandhi, to which the court said, I am also offended on behalf of Mahatma Gandhi, but can we bring a case of criminal defamation? No, we cannot.
Okay, let me bring in Jayanant Dehadrai. So let's keep this conversational, Ms. Nandi. Hold your thoughts. I'll come back to you. Is there merit in what the Supreme Court said? The proceedings against Rahul Gandhi have been stayed. Is there an expectation that leader of opposition, as the government says, should be more responsible in his public statements, the manner in which the court responded, or can no third person take offense to what was said about the army, especially at a time when it's for greater public good to know what was happening at the LAC, sir?
Hi, Gaurav. Good evening. Very quickly, firstly, this is the Indian Supreme Court. This is not the Supreme Court of Pakistan. So I think what the Supreme Court has said, as the guardian of the Constitution in terms of 19(1)(g), which guarantees free speech, there are also certain exceptions to that guarantee. You can't simply come out merely because you're the leader of the opposition, come out and say whatever you please, first. Second, someone said something right now about truth being an exception to the criminal law of defamation. But what he said isn't the truth. This was a positive statement that he put out. This was not some question he was asking for the larger good. This was, he came out and he insulted, demoralized the Indian armed forces. The sort of words that he used, he said, Indian Jawanon ko peeta gaya, they were thrashed. Then he says that 2,000 square kilometers were taken away. This is beyond awful. I mean, how can the person who is, yes, he's supposed to ask political questions. I agree with what Shama Mohammed says, that if there are, political questions he wants to ask, absolutely, he's meant to. That's how democracy functions. But I'm sorry, what he said was not a political question in the least. If he had said that the BJP has mishandled this situation, that would be one thing. You come out and you start attacking, criticizing the armed forces, and specifically humiliating soldiers who are laying down their lives in the toughest conditions, toughest terrain imaginable, and you use such horrible language for them. And the person who has filed this complaint in UP, he's a concerned person. I'll just add one point very quickly, Gaurav, if you'll permit me. That person is a retired army officer. He used to serve in the BRO. He has as much to lose. Imagine a person devotes his entire life, stays away from his family, moves to the border where the harshest terrain imaginable exists, right? And then lays down his life. He sees his friends getting, killed. And then he has to listen to this statement where their sacrifices, their valor is insulted in this obnoxious manner. One last thing. What the Supreme Court has said today, I think it is absolutely balanced. I quite agree with what Ms. Nandi said before me. She's right to the extent that they have stayed it, all right. But I wouldn't jump to a conclusion that they're going to set aside what the Allahabad High Court has said, because there's also the element, Gaurav, of sedition. And this is really important. Statements and words that are spoken in a manner that can affect the sovereignty and unity of our country, they come within sedition. So, criminal defamation under the old law, as Ms. Nandi rightly points out, that might be attracted to this case, merely restricts itself to, a much milder punishment. But if it comes into the realm of sedition, this is a very serious thing. And the Supreme Court, I think, has rightly echoed the sentiment of every Indian. This is not a political issue. Please let me highlight that. This is an apolitical statement from myself as well. This is, you can't merely because you're the leader of the opposition, your last name is Gandhi. So you feel you have some immunity to say whatever you like about the armed forces in India's sovereignty. I'm sorry, it doesn't fly. And I'm glad
Fair
that
enough.
the
I'll
Supreme
get the
Court has
Congress to
issued
respond
notice.
to that. I'll get the Congress to respond to that. But on the factual position on ground, I want to bring in two people who would know what's happening there, General Meston and my colleague Sandeep Unnithan. General Meston, factual position on ground vis-a-vis the claims about situation at LAC. Has China taken 2,000 square kilometers of Indian territory since the 2020 face-off in eastern Ladakh? Or, General, is every inch being hotly contested with 50,000 troops deployed on either side at the LAC?
Gaurav, good evening. Firstly, coming on to the LAC, I was luckily the Colonel GS of the same division in Leh Ladakh and organizing all these patrolling programs, etc. And thereafter, I was also looking after the entire LAC with China in the Military Operations Directorate as a brigadier way back in 2011. And of course, I commanded the Nathula Brigade. So my experience on ground goes that whatever situation there, I think the things have not changed. Reason being, because the same patrolling points the Indian Army is going as on date, and which was in my time also way back in 2004 or all these timelines. The fact of the matter is, if there is so much contentious issue happening, in the last 5 years I've heard a number of discussions. Some intrusions have taken place. The armed forces have to be trusted. They are on ground. The ITBP is there on ground. So sometimes, wrong understanding, wrong perception, someone may have given out somewhere, and that leads to wrong understanding. On ground, I am quite clear that perhaps no intrusion of any kind has taken place. Yes, contentious issues were like PP-15 or PP-14. Their patrols used to go. I think mutually it was decided in the Corps Commanders Conference that now, some kind of a buffer zone was created, and thereafter it was decided that whenever they patrol, they will inform each other side. And in my time, we never used to inform. We used to just go and patrol, and that
So
was
there is a change. So there is a change, Sandeep. And when we say that people are going up to, the soldiers are going up to various patrol points, clearly they aren't. There is a buffer zone. Point one, Sandeep, is that buffer zone on our side. You and I have reported from Ladakh, not only during the 2020 standoff, but also subsequently. On facts, is Rahul Gandhi on facts, or is he on a sticky wicket on facts?
Gaurav, I think Rahul Gandhi is on a sticky wicket on facts because, let's face it, we lost 38,000 square kilometers of land in Ladakh, and we all know when that happened, in 1962. So, after losing that entire chunk of territory, that's Aksai Chin, all this is small change what we're really talking about. We've lost our entire one half of, Ladakh to the Chinese in 62. And what we're talking about now is literally, holding the line since 1962. And what is happening is that that line of actual control is not a formal line. It's not recognized by either side. It's patrolled to an extent that it will actually result in a formal, border at some point. That's in discussion right now. So it's, we patrol to our claims, the Chinese patrol to their claims. So the whole situation is a bit fluid right there. And to say that, 2,000 kilometers or 3,000 kilometers have been lost, these are all notional claims, Gaurav. And, as far as we know, the situation is back to where it is in 2020.
Okay. Dr. Shama Mohammed, BJP Vice President Jay Panda says anyone other than the current LOP would have gone into exile from sheer shame. He insists that the epic comment, if you were a true Indian, but the Supreme Court verbalizes what crores of Bhartiyas have been speaking for long. Now, if both sides are contesting for territory, how is that loss of territory, ma'am?
Okay, so let's make one thing very clear. The loss of territory was clearly mentioned by, as I mentioned, one Arunachal BJP MP as well as their Ladakh BJP MP. It is not by the Congress. Now, I want to respond to each one. Zafar says, in the floor of the parliament, yes, this is not an autocracy, in a democracy. Rajnath Singh came to the floor of the parliament and read out a statement. We said we wanted a discussion. From 2020 to now, we haven't had a discussion on Galwan, and you cannot deny that, Zafar Islam. So I'm not going to listen to what Rajnath Singh wants to say. I want a discussion. The Congress party wants a discussion. Let's do that. If you have the guts, Let's do it in the monsoon session. Of course, you all will not, because you know you're at the wrong. Number two, the guy, I don't know what his name is, some new person, another lawyer, not Karuna. The person says he has demoralized
Jayant, go on, ma'am.
I don't know who he is. He has demoralized the armed forces. He has done this, he has done that. Now, Jay Dehadrai, I want to ask you, on 26/11, there was a chief minister standing out when the operation against the Pakistanis were happening. He was insulting the government. He was insulting Hemant Karkare. He was insulting Sandeep Unithar. That time you have no problem, no? When we were fighting terrorists, this chief minister called Narendra Modi was talking against the government of India, against the police of India, against the NSG of India. But that is not insult. That cannot be, that is nothing wrong. My leader never did this. When Operation Sindoor happened, he said, we stand with the government, we stand with the army. So if you don't know these things, you should shut your mouth and stay wherever and do law. Not come and start acting
no
like this.
personal attacks on my guests. Dr. Sharma Mohammed, it's my request. No personal attacks on our guests.
I'd like to respond to Mr.
Now the
Mohammed,
other
because I was
person
Yes, one by
extremely-
one.
No,
Yes.
I was extremely civilized. I was
Now
extremely
the last
civilized
one,
when I
let me
spoke
finish,
about
then you
Ms.
can reply.
Mohammed.
No.
Yeah,
Gaurav,
have
I'll
something
as soon
to
as,
say.
as soon as Dr. Mohammed,
say-
as soon as Dr. Mohammed completes her point, I'm
Sorry,
coming to you, sir.
No, I want
As
to
soon as
finish
Dr.
my
Mohammed
point,
completes her point.
Sandeep.
Yes, Dr.
Yeah,
Sharma Mohammed.
Sandeep Unitan talks about Aksai Chin. Sandeep Unitan, you're a Malayali, I know that. Did we ever deny that? We had a discussion. Vajpayee asked questions during the time. Nehru never said that we did not. It happened, we agree, and we know it. It's in the history books. Why does this man called Narendra Modi say, no, koi gussa
Sir,
hai, na
ma'am,
koi
he's the
gussa
Prime
hai."
Minister of
That
India.
is wrong.
Ma'am,
I
he's
don't
the
care.
Prime Minister
Now,
of India.
Okay, let him be the Prime
He's
Minister of
as-
India. Why does he keep denying these things? I want to know that. The Prime Minister of India denies. Isn't that
Gaurav,
an
can I
insult
just
to our
come in, please?
martyrs?
I'd like to
Now you keep
respond.
going back
I'd
to,
like to
we did
respond.
not
Since
deny
you said
it.
some
Gaurav,
very
absolutely.
nasty things
We don't
about
want
it.
to hear your voice. You're over.
First, Dr.
So we did
Dr.
never
Syed Zafar
deny
Islam,
it.
and then
you have
Jayanant
the
Dehadrai.
audacity to talk about Aksai Chin when the Prime Minister, why did you have 14 corps commander meetings
you
for
have spoken,
Unitan?
you have spoken,
Please
Shama,
answer,
Dr. Shama
why
Mohammed,
did
you
you
have
have
spoken, your
14
time is
corps
over.
commander meetings? If there was
Gaurav,
nothing wrong,
Syed
we
Zafar
have-
Islam,
Gaurav.
Syed Zafar Islam to respond, because Jairam Ramesh, Syed Zafar Islam, he's actually doubled down, saying ever since 20 brave soldiers were martyred in Galwan on June 15, 2020, every patriotic Indian has sought answers. But instead of providing answers, the Narendra Modi government for the past 5 years has chosen to obfuscate, hide the truth with a policy of DDLJ, and that's not Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge. It's deny, distract, lie, and justify. Dr. Syed Zafar Islam.
Gaurav, I think there is absolutely no headroom left for this kind of a speculation, rhetoric, what Shama Muhammad is demonstrating here. This only suggests that the observation made by the Honorable Supreme Court gives certificate for all the anti-India thoughts Rahul Gandhi and his lieutenants have. And one of them is demonstrating here as well. The way she is looking, the way she is speaking, the way she is being aggressive is okay, but being uncivilized and we are not being civil.
Okay, so,
is something
sir, no
shows
personal
You can
attacks.
call Rahul Gandhi
Dr.
names.
Shama Mohammed,
You can
Dr.
call
Shama
Rahul
Mohammed is
Gandhi
a
names.
respected guest,
You
sir.
guys call Rahul Gandhi
No,
names. How dare you call him?
you need
How
to be
dare
civil.
you call my leader names? So why dare you say
No,
I'm
you
uncivilized? I didn't call
you
anybody
cannot be
names.
uncivil
How
when you
dare
are talking
you say
about the
that?
Honorable Prime Minister.
Oh,
You
oh,
cannot
oh.
speak like the
You
language you are
cannot
using
speak about
for the
Rahul
Honorable
Gandhi
Prime
then.
Minister of this
You
country.
have no right to speak a word against Rahul Gandhi.
You need to understand that you are speaking about the Prime Minister of this great country, not about your leader who is a leader of opposition and is not respected by the people of this great country.
Okay. On the substantive issue, sir. On the
So,
substantive
having
issue.
said that, the statement by the Honorable Defense Minister have been made on the floor of the Parliament, and everybody, except few exceptions, who are been given certificate by none other than Supreme Court that they have anti-national mindset, are raising this question. Otherwise, every single Indian were satisfied the kind of statement which has been made by the Honorable Defense Minister on the floor of the Parliament. Having said that, we are always happy and ready to discuss every issue in Parliament. But
Yet that discussion,
they only want to disrupt.
discussion
They only want to
discuss it.
only
is
want to
awaited,
disrupt the
but
Parliament.
okay.
Let's do it.
Jayanant Dehadrai, before I bring in Karuna Nandi,
Thank you.
You know, you wanted to respond to Dr. Shamma
I'll be very
Mohammed, but I
brief.
also wanted
I'll
to,
be-
no, I also wanted to draw your attention to what the Allahabad High Court had said. Justice Subhash Vidyarthi had observed that freedom of speech does not include the right to make statements to defame the army. You'd said something on similar lines. Now, is
You're right.
there a word of caution to those who may want to use the armed forces as a stick to beat the government with, you know,
But where did he
with
defend
statements
the
are made?
army? There is nowhere Rahul Gandhi defend the army, Gaurav. That's a wrong statement by
Gaurav,
him.
you're
Defame-
Rahul Gandhi has
you're
defended the
absolutely
army
right.
nowhere.
हमारी
Gaurav,
सेना
you're
को पीटा
absolutely-
और words to that effect. Madam, I'll play that out for
Peter
you.
means
But
that he's the Sena. How
Okay,
did he
If I could-
Jayanand Dehadrai.
if
Jayanand
this
Dehadrai.
lady, if this banshee could keep quiet for 2
No,
minutes, she
sir,
might
sir,
get a brain
request no
aneurysm.
personal attack, sir.
So I'd request her to please calm down, and I understand her frustration
I
with a
didn't
leader
call
like
you
Rahul
words.
Gandhi.
Look at your class.
Yes.
You
With
know
a
who
leader
you
like
are.
Rahul
Absolutely
Gandhi,
no personal
I would
attacks.
be,
Nobody.
I would be quite,
My humble
You have
request
I
to
would be
all our
quite
guests.
upset also
You
if
have
I had
no
a
job.
leader
You are
like Rahul
nobody.
Gandhi, which I
You're not
had
even
to
a
defend every
spokesperson
day.
of the BJP.
I
You're
would be
not a lawyer who gets
extremely
work. So
frustrated.
don't call me
And
banshee.
insofar as
I did
not
call you anything.
one
I'm not
Absolutely.
let you talk.
Ma'am, please take
You
it
understand?
easy.
You
Please
My
take it easy.
apologies.
Take a
My
deep breath.
apologies,
Calling me
Dr.
certain
Mohammed.
Please take a deep breath.
Gaurav, he
She
has
said
to
some very
apologize
Dr.
nasty
Mohammed,
things to me.
my
Tell her to
apologies,
take a
but
deep breath, please.
Did I call him something?
She said some very nasty things.
yes,
She
but
should
only
remember
one
who I
person at
am
a
because
time.
she was once accompanied, she once came to a dinner with Pinaki Misra. I'm sure she remembers who
No,
I am.
okay.
She spent an entire evening there. So certainly she remembers who I am. She wouldn't have forgotten it. So insofar as that is concerned, I mean, I don't make any personal remarks against anybody. It's unnecessary. This is a matter that concerns national security. It's an important
Absolutely, sir.
issue. And I think the Honorable Supreme Court has said something very serious today. And what you were pointing out about the Allahabad High Court also is absolutely correct. They have pointed out something extremely important. They say your freedom of speech cannot possibly extend to demoralizing the armed forces. You are entering into very dangerous territory that attacks the sovereignty and unity of this country. I think that's a very reasonable thing to say. And as I said earlier, this is the Indian Supreme Court with Indian judges. Of course, they're going to echo this sentiment. And yes, they have acted in I think the equities have been perfectly balanced. They are going to hear Mr. Gandhi. He's filed a petition. He has every right to be heard to test his rights. But at the same time, the bench has also expressed, what every Indian, it feels about this. That your constitutional rights don't extend, I'm sorry, to insulting our brave armed, our soldiers, our brave soldiers. You say, unko pita Chinese ne aake, unko ye kya. I mean, what sort of language is this? Is this a serious politician? Is this a serious leader of the opposition? And which is why now I understand, one last thing, which is why now I understand when extremely vituperative, extremely, crass spokespersons like the lady who spoke before me, Shamma Mohammed, when they come and represent the Congress. Now I understand why it's like that, because like leader, like spokesperson.
My request to all
this
our
is
guests,
what they have. This is what the party is about.
Let's just keep this civil. My apologies, because we
I did keep
sincerely
it
don't
civil.
want.
She spoke in a very nasty way about me, and that was completely unnecessary because she got rattled. Because I said something, I spoke on law and constitution. She got completely rattled. And the other problem,
let me
Gaurav,
just
let
move
me
forward
say one
before
thing.
I bring in Karunanandi.
Because I'm not a political person, let me just say one
Yes.
last thing, please. I'm not a political person. I have no political inclination, but I want to say one thing. The problem that this country has faced in terms of development and even in terms of geopolitical issues that we face today because of Aksai Chin and how it was given away in 1962, a lot of it has to do with sycophancy that infects the Congress party. You had generals that were brought in because they were friendly with certain individuals of the Nehru clan. Which is why they were brought in. And we all know about how they botched up military operations through the ages. So I'm sorry, the sycophancy
that's a
has
debate
hurt
for
this
another
country.
time. Absolutely, Jayanand Dehadrai. That's a debate for another time. Before we move forward, and since this question is being raised repeatedly, I want our viewers to listen in to what Rahul Gandhi had said during the Bharat Jodo Yatra. I'll bring in Karunanandi and Jill Meston. Listen in.
जिन्होंने 2000 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर हिंदुस्तान का उठा लिया, जिन्होंने हिंदुस्तान के 20 जवानों को शहीद किया, जो हमारे जवानों को अरुणाचल प्रदेश में पीट रहे हैं, मैंने कहा हिंदुस्तान की प्रेस मुझसे इनके बारे में एक सवाल नहीं पूछेगी।
अरुणाचल प्रदेश में जो हमारे जवानों को पीट रहे हैं, Karunanandi, your appreciation when it's a conversation about our armed forces and we are playing out images of what happened in Yangtze in Arunachal Pradesh, and I'll tell you facts because I was reporting from Arunachal Pradesh when this incident happened, and facts were just the opposite. But go on just on the words used by the leader of opposition, madam.
I would like to speak to the manner in which the previous discussion came down. You cannot, under any circumstances, refer to a co-panelist as a banshee or crass or that kind of thing. And I think when there is
Ma'am,
such
I've already apologized for that. Can we stay on the
situation,
substantive
then it
issue?
really has to be very clear.
Absolutely.
Now,
And I've
coming to
already
the substantive.
apologized, to Dr. Mohammed and
No,
for
you
that
need
issue.
not
apologize.
Also, the
It
comments
has
that
to
were
be
made,
shut down.
Well,
also
that's
comments that were
fair.
made
She's
about
spoken a
all
very
our
nasty
guests.
way about
All
me as
my
well. So
guests
she
are
got what
respectable
I
for
give
me.
as-
your question.
I
I give as
respect
I-
all our
as good as
guests,
I
and I
get.
don't
So
expect
I'm
that
not
from
going to
anybody.
apologize for it.
But can we stay on the substantive issue, Dr. Ms. Nandi, please?
Yes. Now, on the substantive issue, I just heard what Mr. Gandhi said. He said, Jawan shaheed ho gaye, and then he said, Jawano ko pita gaya. Right? Now, Jawano ko pita gaya is not the happiest language. Absolutely. There's no question of it. But is it only when we speak of the army in very glowing terms that things are going to be reported? Because let us be clear that sometimes there are problems. And even if
How
the problems are
shameful. I
not
can't believe
with
my
the
ears.
army
And I can't believe,
itself.
Gaurav, that we're giving a platform to such
Please.
vile
No.
anti-national thinking. It's
No,
sickening.
no.
If this is how Miss Nandi thinks, that you have to speak of the armed forces in critical terms, like in humiliating terms like
Sir,
that, to draw
can we
attention to an
just,
issue.
you will have
This
your
is
turn.
sickening.
You
I mean,
will
I
have your
understand that she's
turn. Now, please
trying to
pipe
impress
down.
the leaders of the Congress party.
No,
But
Now,
this is
it's okay.
absolutely
no
violent
Again,
and sickening.
I'm only
and
staying
no
on the
aspirations of
substantive
political
issue for the
affiliation. So
simple
let us be
reason
clear here.
that we were reporting,
Sad and unfortunate.
when Galwan happened, we were reporting from Ladakh. Both Sandeep Punithan and I, we were reporting from Ladakh. In fact, I drove all the way to Daulat Beg Oldie at the height of the standoff when certain elements were spreading these rumors that India had been cut off at Galwan. Such rumors were spread in our country, and I reported from Daulat Beg Oldie at that time. So I'm staying on the substantive issue. When he's saying 2,000 square kilometers have been taken away, Dr. Nandi.
Or not. You are
when-
on whether
when-
it's truthful or not. Correct?
I know it was in Yangtze, our soldiers beat the Chinese to the top. And then it's
That's
the
right.
Chinese who are at the other end. And then saying, Hamare Jawano ko peeta, Jal Meston, your appreciation of the language that was used, sir.
Gaurav, I'm very clear. In the last few years, most of the politicians, their language actually needs perhaps an improvement, whether it is of the Congress or any party. The word pit ke aaya definitely is not conducive. It could have been soldiers were fired upon, soldiers were attacked upon, or something to that effect. Like a sportsman who goes in the Olympics, he does not win a medal. We don't say ki yaar pit ke aaya. We say ki he couldn't get it or something of that sort. So our language has to be respectful, and especially towards the nation and towards the armed forces. And I think it goes for everyone. Even in this panel discussion, I'm just watching that some of the people, are using derogatory language towards each other. And mind you, everyone watches it, most of the Indians, and I keep interacting with the common man. They also state that people don't use good language. So I think Supreme Court has very, very rightfully conveyed any Indian should speak a correct, decent language, and that matters. So,
Sir, stay with me for a moment. I want our viewers to know facts. When people say 20 Indian soldiers made the supreme sacrifice of their lives, the then Army Commander of Northern Command, Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi, incidentally, he's a Kargil war hero. He was awarded a Veer Chakra in active combat in Kargil. He was the Army Commander at the time of Galwan. And I put this question to him. We had 20 fatalities. What were the casualties on the other side? So that hamari sena pitti nahi hai. Listen into what he told me on my podcast, Chakraview on India Today. Just listen into General Joshi.
Sir, we suffered 20 fatalities. How much in your assessment did the Chinese suffer?
Yeah, so the Chinese also lost their commanding officer.
They lost
And
this-
they suffered about 45 plus casualties. So this was also confirmed by an Australian intelligence, which came up later with an article, and also the Russian TASS had also published this, that they have suffered that many casualties. Plus, we were also observing. We had an observation post on one of the flanks of Galwan, wherein he was counting the number of people that were being carried and taken, which was much more than 45 actually. One was not sure that time that how many fatal and how many this, but they have suffered a large amount of casualties. While they admitted only 4, they're also much later.
That also much later.
Absolutely. So
Correct.
they also suffered large number of casualties, but they want to save face and they don't want to admit their own casualties. Well, we
are a democracy. But if the Chinese suffered 45 plus casualties, was this the first time that India very strongly and militarily stood up to China, drew a red line and said, thus far and no further?
Absolutely. So that was, Galwan was a red line. And then we told the Chinese very, very clearly that, we have lost people and you have broken all the agreements. So now we are not going to follow those agreements. And, we're not going to get into those scuffles that was happening earlier, the face-off drills and all that is over. And that was very, very clearly indicated to them. But post Galwan, while we continue to have flag meetings, but since he had also suffered casualties, that acrimony continued and he was not ready to relent at all. And it was during this period, from the 15th of June till, end of August, is when all that build-up, which I talked about earlier, happened. And we continuously planned our quid pro quo options. We planned, we rehearsed, we continued to maintain surprise and went into a large number of details that what is to be done, what is not to be done.
So, Sandeep, factual position on Galwan, we lost 20, the Chinese lost more than 45. There is evidence to suggest that, but government, of course, is keeping that close to its chest. There are other intelligence agencies who've said that in public domain, including Russia and Australia. But even Yangtze, it's in public domain. Hamare jawan nahi pite. What were facts, Sandeep?
Well, absolutely, Gaurav. And Galwan, it takes the Chinese decades to come out with their casualty figures. I'm not surprised at all. We are a democracy, they are a communist dictatorship, right? They hide numbers, they never come out with the truth, just like Pakistan never claims bodies or comes out with casualty figures. But Yangtze that you mentioned, Gaurav, 9th of December, you had over 300 Chinese troops creeping up onto our soldiers in the dead of the night. They were armed with spiky clubs, all of the kinds that we saw in Galwan just 2 years prior. This is December 9th, 2022. And our Jawans from the Jat Regiment, the Jack LI, the Sikh Light Infantry Regiment, they rounded up the Chinese and they thrashed them. Now, there are videos to prove that it was actually the Chinese soldiers who were being thrashed in Arunachal Pradesh and not Indian Army soldiers, as the leader of the opposition seems to indicate. That was the time that India turned the tables on China. It was called Galwan 2.0, but the end result was very different for the PLA. If they thought that they were going to get some kind of ingress into Arunachal Pradesh, I think the Indian Army showed them what they were made of. And
very clearly, even in Galwan, you can see when the Chinese are trying to come forward, there's this young Manipuri officer who just stands like this and does not let them come forward. I have breaking news that's coming in. I want to thank all my guests.